Well, hi everyone. Thank you very much for coming to the Codex weekly meeting. My name is Jameson Dempsey. I'm the residential fellow here at Codex. I have Wael Lewis here. I'll be playing the role of Roland in person here, and Wael is in Susan Saltman's shoes. We have three really exciting presentations today, and so we want to jump right into it to give each of the presenters time to present and then have a little bit of Q&A after each one of them. Before that, we'll mention it again at the end, but I wanted to mention that on October 17th at 12:45 p.m. At the law school here in room 190, we're going to be having a Meet Codex Lunch. It's an opportunity to meet the leaders of Codex, fellows, alums, and others who've been engaged in the center's projects. We can learn more about Codex as a center and then also the things that our alumni community have been up to since Codex. It's free to attend. Lunch will be provided. It's open to the public, and remote participation is okay, but then lunch will not be provided if you're remote. And with that, I'd like to jump into our three presentations. We're actually thrilled we have Murali Tirupati here from Vault Edge. He was going to be remote, but now he's here in person. So I'm going to turn it over to Murali to talk about Vault Edge. You have 20 minutes.
All right, so my time starts now. All right, so I have all of you here in the room, and how many people on the online?
Let's see, wow, how many do we have? Looks like 22.
23, yeah, 22.
Oh, okay. All right, so what I'll do is, I think there's a bit of a lag, in terms of the projection. Still in that state. Okay, yeah, we'll live with that, no problem. So what I'll do is I'll quickly tell you a bit about what we do as a company, and then I'll give you a glimpse of the software that we have, which we believe helps the lawyers, and take questions. Does it work?
Terrific.
All right. So team, first of all, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know too much about law, but I believe that I still can make a difference to the legal community. Now, my background is I'm an engineer and an MBA. Worked in the industry for about 15 years, did my MBA from University of Management, Ahmedabad, back in India. Did a mix of business consulting and enterprise software sales, worked across IT technologies, Oracle, and IBM. And over the last 3 years, and I'm running my own startups. Okay. Now at Voltage, what we are trying to do is we have built an AI platform we started by building an AI platform that can understand any type of documents. Okay, so think about your job, think about any other profession that involves reviewing a lot of documents, making sense out of them, and then summarizing them. We built a platform that can automate that to a large extent. And we then specifically applied it for legal contracts. So today we have a software, Voltage Contract Analysis, which can actually automatically process any legal contract and extract relevant information out of it within 60 seconds. And the next step of the product is a review and redlining product. So the first product that I just talked about is more useful for due diligences, contract and commercial departments within large enterprises who do this for a job. You're running a due diligence. You need to look into contracts, pull out relevant information, check the boxes and do all that, right? Similarly, if you're in the contract or commercials department within an organization, you do something similar, right? So the Voltage Contract Abstraction is a product that addresses that workflow. The second product that we have is Voltage Contract Review. This is about reviewing a draft contract and telling you whether it is aligned to your company accepted positions or not, right? So you as a company will have a certain position that you are ready to accept for different provisions. You can actually give that as an input, and the software will tell you whether it's aligned to that template or not, and then where it is deviating. So those are the things. We have a few customers in India. mostly enterprises. We try to sell to law firms, felt that law firms are not really ready or don't have the required motivation for this kind of software. So we are now focused more on enterprises and firms that are serving the enterprises on the legal and contract management side. Okay. All right. So let us see if the slides are working here.
It looks like it's going. I can see. There's a little bit of a lag, but I can see your.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So with that context, right? So we actually looked at these two use cases. Number one, around contract management in enterprises, right? So the teams that are negotiating the contracts, the teams that are into commercial management, etc. So statistics say that companies lose 5 to 9% of their revenue because of poor contract management, simply because a lot of things that you need to execute the contract are hidden in that 100-page document. Okay. Whereas in your system, you only have a few of the metadata, like you have the dates, you have the value, etc. But you don't have things like what are the milestones, right? So, and what are the deliverables? What is linked, what payments are linked to those deliverables, etc., etc. It's not really in a system. Okay, so that leads to lax contract administration, leading to loss of revenue. The second is around due diligence. Companies spend ton of money on M&A due diligence, right? But still, insufficient due diligence is actually identified as one of the biggest problem for lack of a successful M&A, right? And I believe that is because once again, if you're actually doing a DD on an enterprise, you have on the business due diligence side. If you want to actually see how their business is doing from the customer vendor side, you have a lot of contracts to review. You have very limited time, which means that you cut corners. You say that, hey, I'll only review only these 100 contracts, right, which probably represent maybe my top 20 customers. Or you even say that even within that, I'm going to look at only these 20 provisions or 10 provisions, right? So you are not actually looking at the full breadth of the problem. So you actually are leaving risk on the table. Okay. So I think underlying both of these is the problem that by the very nature, this is very manual. You have, these, very bright lawyers sitting and going through these, pages and pages of documents, looking for very specific things, right? So it takes a lot of time. It's, the same thing done again and again. It's error prone and probably not the best use of, the lawyer's time. Right. So we built voltage contract analysis to solve this issue. Voltage at the core is an AI platform for unstructured data. So think of any business process that has documents as an input. Voltage can automate that workflow. So we built a platform from scratch that has OCR, computer vision, NLP-based correction of OCR errors. It has classification engine, and it has machine learning models to pull out information. It has all these different pieces in the backend. But at the in very simple terms, it's a AI platform that has been trained using legal contracts. So we sourced more than 10,000 legal contracts from different jurisdictions and had real lawyers that annotated each and every one of these contracts, right? So that went in as a corpus training data for this software. So with that, today you can give a new software and Voltage can automatically help you summarize it. Of course, there are a few others in the space. We have Logix, Thought Reverse, Seal, Kira, etc. And I think they have their role to play. We have a role to play. And it's a very, very nascent market, in my opinion. So I think there is enough space for a lot of players to be working in this space. All right. Yeah, I don't need to get into go-to-market probably, but here is a case study that I would like to talk about. This is a large BPO/LPO company which provide contract management as a service for their enterprise clients, right? So just within leases, they process more than 10,000 leases in a month, taking anywhere from 4 hours all the way up to 2 days to review that lease, pull out information, put it into a database. So they evaluated us with their own software as well as what they were trying to build, as well as with the completer solution, and finally picked us. So today, when they get a new scanned copy of a lease, they simply upload it into Voltage. Voltage extracts the information. Voltage lets them review it, verify it, make changes, and click a button to take it into a spreadsheet or into their downstream system. So that's the kind of efficiencies that we are giving enterprises. So very briefly, my background, as I said, I'm an MBA from IMA with about 15 years of enterprise consulting and sales experience. And my co-founder Sajeev, he's a Stanford Ignite alum, and he has 15 years of experience building enterprise products from scratch. He has several patents to his name in backup and analytics. So with that, maybe I'll actually spend a few minutes to show you a quick demo.
Sounds great.
How am I doing on time?
You're doing great on time.
Okay. All right. So what you see in front of you, we don't have the design block P design, so we just need to give it a minute for it to render.
Probably minimize it. Is it maximized?
Yeah. Should I switch to a different window and come again?
Try to minimize it.
Minimize the whole thing.
Try a different window.
Okay.
There we go.
Now, all right. So what you see in front of you is voltage contract analysis. There are a bunch of different contracts over there. This is my demo system that I use for my customers. So let us say you're in a due diligence, right? You're in due diligence process. You have these 50, 100 contracts or maybe 1,000 contracts that you need to review, right? So when you have voltage, you can simply upload a single file, single contract, or your entire set of contracts at one go into the software. Like this. So here I'm going to select specific files. Okay, so you can upload a specific file, or you can upload an entire drive, entire directory, and voltage, sucks them in and does a few things. Okay, so the first thing it actually does is it actually sees that if there are any duplicate files within this. So our experience is in these due diligence and contract abstraction projects. About 20% of the files end up being duplicate files, right? So voltage helps you detect them right up front, so you don't end up, wasting time on the same file, right? 3 different people are looking at the 3 copies of the same file. You don't want that to happen, right? So voltage takes care of that. So for example, we uploaded 5 files over here. It is telling me that, hey, contract 2 already exists in the system, right? And using this duplicate column. And if I actually click over there, it tells me that, hey, you uploaded just now contract 2, but there is already a sample lease agreement .pdf over there, which is essentially a copy of this, right? So you can click on it, and then if you want to see, you can see a preview of the file right here itself. Okay, so it has this engine to detect, these duplicate files, so that you can avoid working on those files. So the next thing over here is around, the next thing that you see is the software also automatically is telling us what that particular file is, right? It's telling us that contract 1 is a master service agreement, contract 2 is a lease agreement, 3 is a lease agreement, 4 is an employment agreement, etc. Okay, so there's a classification engine out there which can figure out what the document is, and this classification engine can be easily retrained for your categorization, for your taxonomy. Next piece. Okay, so it actually told you, hey, you only need to work on the 7 files, not all the 10 files, and each of these is this type. Now you can go pick any file, like let me pick this file, and say that I know that this is a lease document, so I'm going to put it in the lease bucket. And I'll also assign who are the team members, who are the lawyers that are going to verify the extracted data. right? So it's not actually 100% automation. After it extracts, you still want somebody to actually verify it. Okay, so you can actually say who are the people that are going to do that job. You can assign them, and it has a workflow engine that takes care of this process as well. That takes care of, okay, initially Murli is going to do it, then after that James is going to do a quality check on his work, so it actually flows through that workflow. All right, so we picked a file, we put it into this folder, and you can see that the software is pulling out information, processing this particular contract. It typically takes about a minute, so we'll give it a few more seconds, and maybe I can even assign one more file. And this time I know that this is a master service agreement, so maybe I will apply the corresponding template, and once again I put it all there. All right, so this is being extracted, and yeah. All right, so while they're being extracted, let me open one of the existing files. So here we have a sample master service agreement. I think this is about 50 pages. And from this, let us say this is about 64 pages, and say from this, these are the things you are looking to review, right? So basic things like term, start date, and date, and then you are looking at, hey, what is the change of control provision saying? What is the governing law saying? What is the dispute resolution mechanism that has been described? So on and so forth, right? So all we did is we just uploaded this contract to the software, and the software automatically extracted the information, and it is giving it to us for our review here on the right hand side. You can go and tap on any of this extracted pieces of information. The software takes us to the corresponding place in the document where it picked it from. Okay, so irrespective of where that particular provision is there in the document, it may or may not have the correct heading, subheading. Voltage understands the language and puts it into the corresponding provision, right? So as opposed to spending your time on that 60, 100 pages, if you are looking for that 15 provisions, software will pick up those 15 provisions and give you that abstract over here on the right hand side. And while you are reviewing this abstract, now you want to actually, let us say you want to pick some more, you can do that. Or while you are reviewing it, you want to capture your due diligence notes, right? So you want to actually identify the risks that you see in the contract. You can do it right here itself. Okay, so you have the relevant portion there, and then you are actually capturing the risk that you see right there itself. You do that, you save it, and then you can say that, I'm done. My next lawyer, my senior lawyer, can now verify it. He can do that, and once you are done with that, then you can export that into a Word document, or if it is actually 100 files together, then you may want to export it into an Excel file. So I'm going to show that export as well. Okay, that's not the export, but this is. Okay, so you can see this is how your report looks like, right? So if I'm sure you would have done due diligences, probably the contracts due diligence section within your DD report looks somewhat like this, I believe. So you have all these, for each document you have a report. It actually has all the clauses that you reviewed. It has the verbatim abstract, and it also has the issues that you want to highlight, for that. You can export in this format, or you can export only a issue-based report, which means that only those cases where you have an issue, you can export in that format as well. I think the trend is moving towards that, more issue-based report in case of due diligences. It lets you do that as well. I'll just take maybe a minute or two more. So over there, what you saw is the software abstracting relevant provisions, right? But in some cases, you would want to look at specific values. For example, in this particular case, it's not so much the provisions, but rather specific values that you want to look at. Who is the tenant? Who is the landlord? What is the area of the lease? What is, let us say, the address? What is the start date of the lease? What is the expiration date of the lease? Right? The software can go to this level and extract very specific piece of information for you. And here you will even notice that expiration date is not explicitly mentioned in the contract. Rather, it says that it is 3 years or 2 years from the start date, right? So the software automatically calculated and giving those numbers as well for you. So this is the voltage contract abstraction, that product. And I'll give you a glimpse of the contract review and redlining product as well. This is the second product, where here the intent is not so much about to create a summary of the contract, but rather you want to understand whether the particular draft is aligned to your template or not. Okay, so you set your standard positions in the software. Once you do that, when you upload a new contract, the software will give you a risk summary of high, medium, low. If it's a green, probably you can even just let it go through without somebody looking at it. But if it is highlighted as yellow or red, then you click on it, it will tell you what are the provisions on which the draft deviates from your company accepted positions. You can click on it to see why the software thinks it's a risk, essentially why it's a deviation. For example, audit rights here it is saying that, hey, audit can be done, the company is expecting a right to audit on demand, right? You are a data processor company, customer is expecting a right to audit on demand, and that is not an acceptable position for you. That's why it's highlighted as risk. And you can expand this, and then the software will tell you, hey, this is, instead of that, this is what you can actually agree to, right? This is our standard position. Software actually gives this to you right there. So this essentially helps speed up the review and redlining process for contracts. So yeah, that's about it. That's what I wanted to show. Now, let me take any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Sure. As somebody who's had to do and oversee due diligence reviews of leases and other nonsensical agreements, it'd be nice to see whether Vault Edge, on extracting a few sample leases, can then tell you the changes that were made in the next 100. Right? So typically, for instance, if you were renting space from a standard shopping mall group like Simon or REIT, they would have a form lease, and then there would be very minor changes. And so rather than the processing and the attention, frankly, to the processing of individual lease documents, what you really want to see is how varied from what turns out to be statistically standard form are the individual leases, because yes, there could be pitfalls in those variations.
Sure,
how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So in fact, the software lends itself to do that. Let me show you how. Like, let us say you have these 100 leases in the mall, right? That you have signed all the period. So using the software, you can actually process all of them through the software. And let us say you can do it. This is one way to look at it, right? So I said that I have these 4 agreements that I signed, which are supposed to be a format leases and then with some modifications. You run all of them through Vault Edge. With a single click of a button, you can export all the relevant data from these leases into a single file. You can have a template and then all the 100 files that you signed over there into a single file. Now, which looks like this in a minute. So, all right, so each time I'm showing something that is running in the background. All right. So here you can see we have these 4 master service agreements that we randomly picked in this case. But when I export the data, I have all the information coming into a single file, and it looks like this for me. Okay, so this actually gives me a very quick comparison of how the different leases are changing, on all the key provisions that you have. So that's how our customers use it.
But I haven't saved the lawyer time to check the extraction of, in this case, the 4, or in my case, the 100 documents. I've not saved that time, right? And I've not gotten a statistical certainty that here are the very provisions from the standard.
Okay.
So I'd like in my due diligence review to see that 80 of the leases were on standard form, including term and rent and blah, blah, blah. But these 20 have very special terms.
Sure. Yeah. So that's what I would call a reporting layer on top of this, right? So if you look at it, this is the granular data that I'm showing here, where it tells me, for example, let us say term, right? So the standard language you want to use, every term, every lease should be 3 years, and with a notice period of, let us say, 6 months for renewal, right? So this is actually pulling all that information into one place. Now, what you're telling me is, hey, probably that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is just tell me out of these 100 leases, which are the leases that deviate on term, which are the leases that deviate on, let us say, payment terms, right? That's what you're saying. That is a simple report on top of this, right? So, and those requirements tend to be different for each customer. So we actually do it more on a bespoke basis.
You can imagine that there would be different provisions for the conditional in which you would leave the premises at the end of the lease. There would be different rights of termination. There would be, and those are the operative ones, including the transaction.
So I think it probably makes sense for us to make that as a standard thing, right? So instead of have a standard template and compare to the standard template, tell me the lease. Yeah.
And the statistical likelihood that there are variances, yes.
Great. We'll need to move on to the next presentation, but Murali, are you going to be able to stay a little bit afterwards?
Sure.
Okay, great. Anyone can ask questions right after it. All right, thank you very much. All right, next up we have James Lee, who graduated from this law school a number of years ago, and Mihui Pak, who are the CEO and Vice President of Product, respectively, for Legalmation. In the interest of time, I'll turn it over to you guys once you guys are set up to go.
Great, thanks.
All right.
So my name is James, and this is Mihi, and I've been practicing for 20 years. Started out my career at Morgan Lewis and Quinn Emanuel. 15 years ago, I left with a few friends at Quinn to start my own litigation boutique, and we grew that firm from 2 lawyers to 3 lawyers to 40 lawyers last year. And a lot of what we realized was that as a much smaller firm, we needed a lot more technology to level the playing field. So whereas the other bigger firms were bringing in armies, we were bringing in commando units. And so for the longest time, we were integrating a lot of innovative technologies to our practice. About 3 years ago, I actually attended the Harvard Law School Executive Executive Program for Law Firm Managers, where a lot of AmLaw 200 executive committee members attend, and basically for a 1-week period learn the latest techniques and issues related to law firm management. One of the days was actually devoted to technology. They were talking about AI and how it had infiltrated medicine, and it was just a matter of time before it would infiltrate law. Well, I saw all this. I went back to my firm, some of my partners, and I said, we have to get on top of this. And so we started looking into various AI technologies that we can use. I mean, to be perfectly frank, I was afraid that much bigger firms with their resources would be able to take our lunch. And so we started to experiment. We started to understand what AI was all about. A lot of hype about AI, which is actually one of the biggest things that we all need to disarm. But as soon as we realized what AI was really about, what it does, really handles a volume process layer, we started to ask ourselves, well, what pain points do we all experience as young litigators? And we realized that the first domino that falls is that complaint that's handed to you. And as a young associate, you have to read it, you have to prepare an answer and target a written discovery. That's about an 8 to 12-hour job. We wanted to see whether we could use AI to tackle that. And so, this is our website, and I'm going to be running this complaint. This is a real lawsuit. Albert Liu, who happens to be a dentist, walks into a Whole Foods restaurant. You can't see that. Whole Foods market. Hold on one second while the latency catches up.
No, it's not.
Well, while that is,
Are you seeing it change on your end or
yeah, hold on.
just not on the screen? Oh, okay, we see your mouse now.
You see my mouse?
Yeah.
Yep.
You see this PDF?
I think try not to maximize it because that happened with Morali too.
So you want me to maximize it?
No.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
I'm not maximized.
Okay, cool.
Zoom sucks, by the way.
Shout out to Zoom.
All right, well,
Okay.
yeah, well, I'm trying to show this PDF, which is the problem. There's a,
Is there a way to drag, is it in a different window? Can you just drag it from one part of the screen?
no,
to
it's
the other?
the same window.
Got it.
You want to switch windows and come back again? It solved the problem for me.
What did you do?
Just go to a different tab and try to come back, or yeah, over here.
Let me see.
Okay, did you disconnect?
Do you want to show us your actual laptop screen? Does it work around?
I think you have to
Alright,
go
yeah.
into share screen and share the different program.
All
Yeah,
right,
now
No,
it's
we have it.
Yeah.
We have it now.
All right, so here's the complaint. This is a 12-page personal injury complaint. Albert Liu walks into a Whole Foods market, buys a rotisserie chicken, bites into the gizzard of that chicken that contains a rock, and breaks his teeth. And so Albert Liu, who ironically is a dentist, then sues Whole Foods for negligence, strict product liability, breach of warranty, 17,500, which is false advertising, 17,200, which is unfair business practice. If I'd given this to one of my associates to do, guaranteed 10 to 12 hours of work. And so we wanted to see whether we can use an AI platform to basically solve that problem. And so, much like, so this is our website. We want to make this as easy as possible because we know we're dealing with lawyers. And we have two modules, a complaint analysis module and a discovery analysis module. The complaint analysis module is what we're going to be using. And this is a drag and drop process. We have California, Texas, and New Jersey up right now. And so I'm going to drag and drop a copy of that PDF complaint. And then the next question I have to answer is which domain. So each of these different domains actually is subject to different training. So we have employment, personal injury, and first-party insurance claims. This is a personal injury complaint. I'm going to press go. So what's happening now is that PDF complaint has to be reduced to a text-readable file. So it has to go through an OCR process. Ironically, the longest part of the process, depending on the length of the complaint. But after that OCR process is done, that text file goes to our AI platform. We use Watson for this part. We find Watson works really well on looking at word relationships within a sentence. We actually use a different AI platform that we built for our second module, which we'll also show. But what our AI platform is doing is it's reading the complaint. It's making decisions about what's important, what type of claims are being asserted, and more importantly, what is boilerplate. So if you've ever practiced in litigation, actually read one of these things, these lawsuits, about 80% is boilerplate. It's just legalese that lawyers like to use to sound important, and to the untrained, it actually sounds important. It sounds substantive, but actually training the system to differentiate between the two is actually fairly important. We're done here. The next page is simply to confirm some information that appears on the caption page, and because there's hand stamps, handwriting sometimes confuses the OCR. It caught an extra colon. It caught the correct name of the parties. It caught an extra AND for the defendant. We always assume the lead defendant is always going to answer and ask questions of the lead plaintiff, but if you want to add more parties, you can do that here. The hypothetical lawyers credentials are already on the system and press go. And in a few more moments, you're going to get a really high quality draft on par with what you would get from a first or second year lawyer of an answer and targeted discovery. And in a few more moments, that should pop up. So I'm going to download a zip folder of that work product. So you get the answer, form interrogatory since we're in California, request for production and special interrogatories. So I'm going to open up the answer. You know, when I was a younger associate, this would have taken me 3 or 4 hours just for the answer. And you're going to see what this work product looks like. So it's in the proper format for California. This one has it's an unverified complaint, so there's a general denial. Then it's going to start marshaling all the appropriate affirmative defenses for those claims. And what's really great about this, the feedback that we're getting is this is a great risk mitigation tool because we're not missing anything. And just to give you an idea of how dynamic and smart this system is, here's an affirmative defense of excessive fines. Well, this tells me that there's a punitive damages allegation in the complaint, and our system was able to detect that. But if you don't happen to not like an estoppel defense, that's okay. You can just delete and everything auto numbers. Our design philosophy is we want to give the lawyers all the options of all the available affirmative defenses because it's a lot easier to delete than to add. But again, when I was an associate, this would have taken me 3 or 4 hours, and in a matter of a minute or two, it's done. But the real value of this and really exemplifies the power of AI properly harnessed are the targeted written discovery questions that we were able to generate. So here's a set of requests for production, and again, it's in the proper format. This will have definitions already established, and this is highly customizable and to whatever the firm or the client wants. This one has instructions, again, customizable for the client's preferences, ESI protocol. And then it's going to start marshaling the request for production questions. And just like the New York Times crossword puzzle, it's going to start off really simply. So here you can see that it knew there was a negligence claim, so it's going to ask a simple question on negligence, the product defect, allegations about the breach of warranty, but then it's going to start getting increasingly more complex. It's going to start asking questions about his medical records, his medical injuries, lost damages, lost income, etc. But I do want to show you the value of the system, which also includes, we have the ability now to make contention requests. So that's where lawyers actually take key allegations in the complaint and will basically start asking questions. And so here you can see that the first one that it picked up is asking about communications that Dr. Liu had with the Whole Foods store. But I do want to direct your attention, and most of these are actually very good, but I do want to direct your attention to what I think is the most important allegation in the entire complaint, which is number 48 here. So it says, please produce any and all documents or communications that support, discredit, or relate in any way to your allegation that, as the manufacturers, retailers, or merchants of the rotisserie chicken, defendants knew or should have known that the gizzards of their chickens with access to the outdoors would contain Robson foraging. When I saw this, I was blown away for 2 reasons. Number one, the most important allegation of the entire complaint, and actually we looked into it. This actually is a big problem with chickens that have access to the outdoors, which is why the chickens you buy, like Foster's Farms and et cetera, are actually kept in houses. But secondly, we looked at the training set. Was there another case involving chicken gizzards and rocks? And the answer is no. But we've shown our system so many other food product liability cases, it detects this as a pattern, right? And says, hey, I think this is important. Let me pull it out and put it in a contention request just like this. But again, another great example of how we're able to take an entire day's work and compress it now into a couple of minutes. So the feedback we're getting from our clients is that a time saver. When we show this to litigators, their jaws literally drop. We showed one firm where after a demo, people started to applaud. And the chief knowledge officer of the firm said, I've never had that happen. And so we really think we're onto something here. But we do want to show you the second pain point that we're able to solve. So this is the first pain point, and I'm going to hand this over to Mihi to show you the second pain point.
And can I get the other document underneath
Yeah.
with the file? Okay, there we go. Oh no. Okay, so my name is Mihi, and I will be showing you Module 2, which addresses another pain point for lawyers, responding to the discovery requests. So again, it's as easy as clicking the discovery analysis box. You'll see that the state is on the left. We'll keep California for now. Drag and drop the document that you want to be addressed into the box, and you click go. Now, one of the reasons why responding to discovery is a pain point for attorneys is because the task itself is tedious and repetitive, but not mindless. So for example, when an attorney is responding to requests for production of documents, they need to make sure that all the appropriate objections are asserted. Otherwise, there'll be negative repercussions down the line. So our system is, as in module 1, read through it. It looks like we have to punch in a client ID. We're at the verification page. Again, all you have to do is verify and make sure the system picked up all the correct information. Now, for example, it looks like propounding party, responding party, those fields need to be filled in. That's why we have this page. But this is where the real meat of module 2 is. So our system has a list of the 9 most common objections. And up here, you'll see that there are 3 choices. 1, the attorney can pick an objection that they always want to be included in every answer. Every request, you can select never include this objection if the attorney never uses those, or you can go with what I recommend, smart object, which allows our system to sift through and figure out what the appropriate objections are. So again, it's just as easy as clicking go. Now, just to tell you really quickly, the document that I dropped into our system is an RFP that has 80 requests. And I think it's reasonable to say that that would take a paralegal or a junior associate at a minimum a couple of hours to respond to, right? And oh, it looks like our system's already done it. Let me click over and show you the output. You download it. Open it up. Okay. So you will see when I open this that the document is already formatted, ready to be reviewed and filed. But as I said, speed is only half the battle, right? So I'm impressed how fast it was, but again, we really do care about quality. So let me do a control find and take you to number 77. Okay, so you'll see in request number 77, it asks for income tax returns. Now, in the state of California, income tax returns are protected by the right of privacy under the California Constitution. And you will see that our system picked that right up, and it objects on the grounds of privacy, and it cites to the California Constitution. Amazing, right? But I think where the rubber really meets the road is when we talk about volume. So it's great that we saved a couple hours on this one document, but recently we had a client that was served 80 sets of discovery in one case. And that was a total of 2,400 individual requests. So I think it's fair to say that that would take a paralegal or a junior associate 2 to 3 weeks to respond to. Let me tell you how long it took our system to do it. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. So that shows that our system is not only smart and dynamic, but it's scalable. And if you really think about it, I mean, what's 80 sets of discovery across 800 cases? The time and cost savings are exponential. So I think perhaps maybe one of the most exciting things about all of this is that we feel that we've only just begun to tap into the potential of this technology. Right now, from where we sit, the possibilities are limitless. And on that note, I'll turn it back to James.
So I just want to give you some examples of what we're doing in terms of we're trying to identify each volume process layer at every stage of litigation. And it's from the beginning and filing of the lawsuit all the way to post-trial. You know, on a post-trial basis, you have to prepare a memo of cost. That's a 2-day job. There's no reason why an AI platform can't do that. And so really excited about the prospects for AI for the entire industry, because I think it's going to change the way that we all practice. But with that, I turn it over to you guys for questions.
Yeah, great. Does anyone have any questions? The Innovation team? Yeah.
You mentioned that you have in your claim response that it's looked at lots of food safety claims. Are you working sort of industry by industry or claim type by claim type? What data are you putting into it?
So we have 3 domains that we primarily have right now. It's employment. So that's all employment related cases, wrongful termination, harassment, discrimination, and then personal injury. Now that's a really big category, but that really covers premises liability, motor vehicles, toxic torts, asbestos, product liability, food product liability, And so, it covers those areas. And so we are trying to go for volume. So there's 15 million lawsuits filed in America every year. That's a staggering number. When I first heard that, I was blown away. The vast majority of those cases, though, are employment, personal injury, those type of claims. And so, we are trying to hit a lot where the volume work, I think, exists.
Is there a pro se play here? Is there a way to get it into the hands of self-represented folks?
The answer is yes. One of the things that I will be trying to push is actually promoting our platform and actually building it for some pro bono organizations.
Perfect.
Because when you think about it, if we're able to save the equivalent of 3 or 4 FTEs, imagine the type of more substantive work that staff attorneys might be able to do. So instead of spending time doing this volume process layer, you can automate that. Now you can have them interact more with clients, have more thorough investigations, develop better legal theories, take better depositions. There's many times I wished I had 6 more hours to prepare for a deposition or a cross-examination at trial. And time is so precious. And the way I see this type of technology, we're just giving hours back to people so that they can do it. They can use it back in their cases or whatnot.
Fantastic. All right, James, Mihi, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.